Welcome back to the Cricket Corner podcast as we preview the third test match between India and Australia, which will be played at the Holkar Stadium in Indore. To bring people up to speed, because there has been a short gap between a couple of podcasts here and there because the series had a mini break in between the third and the second test match. So the first test match was played in Nagpur, and India finished the game within 3 days and winning by an innings and 132 runs. The second test match was played in New Delhi. Once again, India wrapping up things within 3 days, this time having to bat twice but winning by 6 wickets. So as things stand, India have a 2-0 lead in the series, and since it's a 4-game Test match series, India have already retained the Border Gavaskar Trophy by winning it, by taking a 2-0 lead. So all Australia can hope for now is just to tie the series 2-2 and hope for the best. So that's how the series panned out before the third test match. But we are finally going to have a third test match, and it feels like it's been ages since the teams last played in New Delhi. The third test match, as I said, will be played in Indore. Was scheduled to play in Dharamshala, but they've shifted it to Indore. And the test match will be commencing from the 1st of March till the 5th of March. And then we will have the fourth test match in Ahmedabad. So a lot of things have happened between the end of the third test match, the end of the second test match, and to the third test match, which is starting in a couple of days' time at the time of recording. One of the major changes, a few major changes, have come from the Australian camp rather than the Indian camp. But we are here to preview the third test match. We'll talk about both sets of camps. We'll briefly talk about the pitch, and then we'll wrap things up. So let's preview the Australian camp first, because it's always fun to talk about them, because they have been cropping and changing their sides in the first two test matches. They are trying new things out, but now we are halfway done in this test match series, and Australia should have found some sort of balance in their team for the next two test matches. So what's the news coming out of the Australian camp? I think the major news which has come out is the outgoings from the Australian Test squad rather than the incomings. At the time of recording, there have been 4 players who have left the squad of the Border Gavaskar Trophy. These include Pat Cummins, skipper Pat Cummins, opener David Warner, Aston Agar, and Josh Hazlewood. Pat Cummins flew back to Australia after the second test match because of personal family concerns. He was scheduled and expected to come back for the third test match in Indore, but it seems like the family issues have worsened as far as Pat Cummins is concerned, and he's going to miss the third test match. There are still no news regarding him playing in the fourth test match in Ahmedabad, but at the time of recording, Pat Cummins is set to miss the third test match, and the captaincy reins will be given to former captain Steve Smith. So that's one good thing that Indian fans can look forward to, is seeing Steve Smith captain Australia in India yet again. But our thoughts with Pat Cummins and his family, and hope he recovers. Hope his family comes out of this difficult situation pretty quickly. David Warner was injured in the first test match. In the first innings of the second test match. He had an elbow injury, which is keeping him out of the remaining 2 test matches. But it's interesting that he's been picked in the one-day squad, which the one-day series starts after the test series. So the Australian camp believes that he will recover in time for that. Aston Agar has been sent back home. He's going to play in the Sheffield Shield, so that's him done. And Josh Hazlewood was recovering from an injury, but apparently his recovery is taking longer than expected, and is now set to miss the entire entire tour. I think he's not even included in the one-day squad as well, let alone the test squad. So those are the outgoings from the Australian camp. We have skipper Pat Cummins, who will be replaced by Steve Smith now as the skipper, David Warner, Ashton Agar, and Josh Hazelwood. But we do have some good news coming out of the Australian camp as well. Mitchell Starc is fit to participate in the third test match, and so is all-rounder Cameron Green. I have an article opened right in front of me from crickbuzz.com, excuse me, and it says Starc geared up for return in Indore test despite some discomfort. Now that's interesting. The article goes as follows. Australian pacer Mitchell Starc, who is set to replace Pat Cummins in the Indore test, has admitted that he still has discomfort in his injured finger that's kept him out of action since last year's Boxing Day test. Starc, however, reckoned the third test wouldn't be the first time he's played a game with some sort of discomfort. So, judging by what's written in this CricBuzz article, we can all safely assume that Mitchell Starc is not 100%, but I think there's no other option for the Aussies but to pick him instead of Pat Cummins for the third test match. We have a few quotes from Mitchell Starc himself. He says as follows: "If I only played when I was 100%, I would have only played 5 or 10 tests," Starc said 2 days before the fixture. "I'm happy with where it's all at, and I've built up enough of a pain threshold to deal with the stuff over the last 10 or 12 years." So apparently, despite the discomfort, I think Mitchell Starc looks fired up to compete against India in the third test match. So I think that's an easy swap for Australia to make. Just replace one fast bowler with another, and instead of a right arm quick, we have a left arm quick. But then we have Cameron Green, who has declared himself fit for the third test match as well. The all-rounder missed the first 2 test matches due to yet again another finger injury, but I think he's now back in contention as well. And if he's back, I think he goes straight into that Australian lineup as well, and he'll probably play in that middle order. Green's presence gives the team a favourable option on the bowling front as well, in addition to what he's been planning with the bat. So you can expect Cameron Green to give you a few overs here and there as well. So with the likes of Warner and Pat Cummins out, you can expect Cameron Green and Mitchell Starc to take their place into the starting 11. So these are some of the injury news coming out of the Australian camp. Keeping them in mind, let's try and predict. This is the favorite section of the podcast. His favorite for me is to try and predict the starting 11 for Australia for the third test match. Starting 11 for Australia in the third test match. Yeah. So there is no doubt in mind that Usman Khawaja opens the batting. Travis Head opened the batting in the second innings of the second test match. So let's assume he is going to open alongside Khawaja. So that's 2 left-handers right at the top. Manas Labuschagne at 3, Steve Smith at 4, Peter Handscomb at 5. Now that's a good middle order if they can click. All 3 of them have the capabilities of playing spin quite comfortably compared to the rest of the other batters to follow. So that's 3, 4 and 5 done. Then you might play Cameron Green at 6. Alex Carey is your wicketkeeper, so he's at 7. Now this is the interesting part. In the second test match, Australia went with three spinners and a seamer. So the seamer being Pat Cummins, the skipper himself, and the spinning options being Todd Murphy, Nathan Lyon, and Matthew Kuhneman on debut. Do you still go with 3 spinners, or do you now pick Scott Boland back into the team and just go with 2 spinners and 2 quicks, or do you still go with all the 3 spinners, give them yet another chance to get hold of the conditions, because one can expect the conditions at Indore to be the same, with the ball turning right from the first day. So if you go with three spinners, then your team would be Todd Murphy. Your bowling attack will be Todd Murphy, Nathan Lyon, Mitchell Stark, and Matthew Kuhneman. But if you then go with just two spinners and two quicks, I think you drop Matthew Kuhneman and pick Scott Boland back. But if I am the Australian captain, if I am Steve Smith, I'm going with three spinners because we have Cameron Green back into the team now, and he's another seaming option that you can now unleash against the Indian batting attack. So for me, if I'm Steve Smith right now, couple of days before the Test match, my starting 11 would be as follows: Usman Khwaja, Usman Khwaja, Travis Head, Manas Labuschagne, Steve Smith, Peter Hanscom, Cameron Green, Alex Carey, Todd Murphy, Nathan Lyon, Mitchell Stark, and Matthew Kuhneman. That's my Australian lineup for the third Test match. What about the Indian camp now? Well, to be honest, India hardly need to make any changes. They are 2-0 up in the series, and as far as the form is concerned, it looks like they could easily whitewash India with whatever players they pick. But their starting lineup looks absolutely fabulous. The only concern is surrounding KL Rahul and his opening berth in the team, because you have someone like Shubman Gill waiting in the wings, and you cannot underperform at a consistent level that and expect to keep your place when someone like Shubman Gill is already in the sidelines, on the sidelines. So is KL Rahul under pressure? Well, according to former Indian captain and BCCI president Saurav Ganguly, he is. I have an article right in front of me yet again. This time it's from the Times of India. It was like published a couple of hours early, like 5 hours before the time of recording, and it says Saurav Ganguly on KL Rahul: if you don't score in India, you will get flack. Now that's an interesting one, because according to this article from the Times of India, stripped of his vice captaincy, yes, KL Rahul is no longer India's vice captain. Now, does that give you the indication that he might be dropped from the third Test match? You never know. But KL Rahul hasn't scored the 25-run mark in his last Test knocks. An average of less than 35 in 47 Tests isn't actually good enough. And now Saurav Ganguly has said, as quote, when you don't score runs in India, obviously you will get flack. KL Rahul hasn't been the only one. There have been players in the past also. So that's early signs indicate that KL Rahul could get the axe and be replaced by Shubman Gill in the Indian starting 11. But apart from that, I don't see India making any other changes. Let's briefly talk about the stats and the statistics of the stats and the numbers from Shubman Gill's Test career. 13 matches, 25 innings, 736 runs at an average of 32, healthy enough strike rate of 57 and a highest score of 110. So I feel like his Test career has gone off to a decent enough start. And just to remind the listeners and the viewers that he is one of the few Indian batsmen who have a century in all three international formats. So Shubman Gill, one of the prime candidates to replace KL Rahul in the Indian starting 11. So let's assume Gill replaces Rahul for the third Test match. The Indian 11 still would look pretty similar, with Rohit Sharma opening and Gill taking KL Rahul's place. Then you have Pujara at 3, Virat Kohli at 4. Shreyas Iyer has just returned from injury, so I think he'll keep his place in the starting 11 for the third Test match. So he comes in at 5. Shikhar Bharat has been excellent with the gloves and with a small cameo in the second Test match, so he bats at 6. Jadeja at 7, Akshar Patel at 8, Ravichandran Ashwin at 9, and then your two quicks in Shami and Siraj. I think Shubman Gill should come back, and I think he would. So that will be the only test match, I beg your pardon, the only change India make in this third test match. And I expect if Gill comes back for the third test match, I feel like they'll pick the same core for the fourth test as well. So KL Rahul could be given an opportunity, but early signs show he might not get that chance, and I think Gill will be back. So, yeah, that is the preview of the two sides ahead of the third test match. I hope you guys like this short podcast. If you do, please click like and subscribe on YouTube. If you're listening this on Spotify or Apple Music or anywhere else, please remember to give me a 5-star ratings, because that's a great morale booster. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you very soon. Ciao for now.